Good morning, world. It's Julia here. Good morning. Hello, world. It's Julia here. I'm going to give folks a few minutes to log in and get settled. I am coming from my home studio today. Welcome, welcome, friends that are joining us. Welcome to the Handwork Studios Creativity Time series. As we are having friends join us, why don't we go ahead? I am going to employ our comment bar over here. I see Leah. Leah's here and she's ready to rock and roll. So if you guys want to go ahead and drop your name, tell us who's here, let us know where you're coming from. I thought it would be cool to see, all the different areas we're reaching and where people are logging in from to bring the world a little closer together in a safe way, right? That's the beauty of social media and being live. So thank you guys for coming in and joining us. Awesome. Let's see. And we're also going to have the Handwork Studio who is going to be helping us manage comments because I am terrible at multitasking. So if you have a question, please use the comment bar. If you're not catching on to something, excuse me, let me know. Oh, I see we got some friends from Wynwood. Amazing. Thank you guys. All right. I see my buddy from high school. Hey, Kristen. That means her two littles are going to be joining us. Super exciting. Oh, we have Massachusetts. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for letting us know where you're coming in from. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get this party started because I obviously look like a party today. Because it's Pom-Pom Palooza, it's Wonderful Wacky Wednesday, I thought we should really brighten the mood, make it a party, really go out with a bang. So what I want to do is first just give you guys a rundown of what we're going to be doing today, and then we're going to get started. So as I mentioned before, I am coming from my home studio right outside of Philadelphia. And our actual brick and mortar studio is in the general region as well, Narberth more specifically. So go ahead, any Narbs that are around here, give a shout out. Amazing, amazing town that has really rallied together. And at our studio, we teach our after school and year-round, really our year-round classes, workshops and camps. And then in the summer, we expand throughout the Mid-Atlantic. We run camps at independent schools and universities from New York to Virginia, teaching what it's all about to make. So we're excited to be able to show up online when, if you're out in Massachusetts or in California, you're not able to necessarily access us. We also launched a virtual training platform this year called Handwork Academy, which was developed specifically for educators, after school and summer camp programmers to implement our award-winning fiber arts program into their own programs. So we really, our passion is about teaching through making, and it's from sewing to baking to woodworking and building. We believe it's a fundamental and essential right to have access to learning these skills, and so we're thrilled to now be able to offer these 30-minute lessons to everyone. So thank you again for joining us. As you can see, if you just popped in, it's Pom-Pom Palooza. I am a party over here. I have bedecked myself in all sorts of pom-poms, and we want to show you how you're going to make these. And before we get there, I know many of you have been thinking, Miss Julia, why pom-poms? Where did these come from? Where did these funny, fluffy friends arrive from? So I wanted to go ahead and take us on a little trip. We're going to go ahead and travel back in time for a moment. We're going to... I'm a little low budget over here, so I don't have wavy lines or a screen to show us where we've just headed to. But we have just arrived in Scandinavia. which is in Northern Europe, and they have traced the first pom-pom back to the Vikings. It's around 800 to 1066 AD, and they found the first pom-pom on top of a statue of the Norse god Freyr. So that was the first depiction of a pom-pom throughout history. But when the pom-pom really started to come into reality is we're going to head over to France, and in 18th century France, the pom-pom word is what was, it was derived from French. So the original word was pom-pom, P-O-M, P-O-N as in Nancy, so a little different than our spelling today. And it was from the old French word pomme, P-O-M-B-E, which means to basically knots of ribbons, which is what a pom-pom is. It's really a ball of fibrous material. We often see it as yarn. But pom-poms were really used to communicate either status or regime. So in South America, pom-pom might tell you if you're married or you're not married, or in a military ranking, you might see that you were, you know, an elite level in military because you have purple and you're blue and you're the lower level in the military. So it's a communication device. And then around the Depression, the 20th century, in the 1930s, pom-poms really became a decorative item. And you would start to see people embellishing their clothing. It was a really inexpensive way to make things kind of fun and festive. Instead of using like jewelry or silk tassels, this was just an easy way to take some materials and make it a little more exciting. So nowadays, pom-poms certainly are more about decorating, and I think we are also going to come up with some really fun ways to play and use our pom-poms as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk with you guys about materials first. So the pom-pom maker, what you can use, I have cardboard, just a piece from a box that I received in the mail. I cut it apart. It's just a square. This really depends on the size of the pom-pom you want to make. This is a pretty big square. It's probably 8 inches by 8 inches. You can use this as a measuring activity if you want to make something really a specific size. But again, play around with it. The beauty of what we're doing is you can experiment. There's really no wrong way. So, oh no. Did you guys lose me for a second? All right. I think we're back here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I think you guys can see my pom-pom maker over here. And I am going to show you another type of pom-pom maker you can use. A fork. A fork is not just a fork in the crafting world. We are going to be able to use a fork today to make a pom-pom. We also have our hands, the most low budget item we could possibly find. So this is what I'm going to start with in just a moment, but your hands can be turned into a pom-pom maker. And then we have at the studio, we like to use these little gizmos. These are called pom-pom makers. And they're incredibly fun because they come apart, they flip around. It does take a little practice in making sure you're using the right pieces. So I'll go ahead and quickly walk you through that towards the end today, but I do want to make sure I show you how to make your pom-pom makers with just things hanging around your house. Now, also what you're going to need with your pom-pom maker is yarn. I have a skein of yarn over here. I like to wind off my yarn into yarn balls. Usually about a golf ball size yarn ball will be perfect. So if you have multiple people making pom-poms in your house, this is a great idea. So you don't have to wait for somebody to use the actual skein of yarn. So you have your yarn. And then for some embellishing, you can get some glue. You can use some markers, just any old markers. You can use paper for decorating. So again, all things that you guys are going to have with you. And the last thing you are of course going to need is a pair of scissors, which I think might have walked away on me. Oh, here they are. They did. A pair of scissors. Any old craft scissors will be just fine. So we are now established with materials, and I'm going to go ahead and start us off with a hand pom-pom. I made, just to show you an example, if anyone's ever seen Spirited Away, they have something called soot balls, which are these adorable, they look like little dust bunnies, and this was a really fun size to make the soot ball. So and it looks a little scraggly, so when you're doing a pom-pom on your hand it might be a little scraggly, but I'm going to go ahead and take my yarn over here. I'm going to find the end, just unravel it, or if you have your yarn ball, and I'm a righty, so what I'm going to do is in my left hand over here I'm going to take the tail of the yarn and I'm just going to pinch it between my thumb and my pointer. And again, you guys, if you just want to listen and understand how to do all of this, remember this video is going to be able to be accessed on our Facebook page, on our website, on YouTube, so you will be able to find this. You'll be able to share this out. So don't worry about trying to keep up if you're concerned. All right, so I am now locked in. You want to make sure if you give it a little pull, it's not going to go anywhere. I'm locked in, and I'm going to just take my right hand, and it's this rotation. So my recommendation is if you have friends under the age of 5, I really recommend doing this with an adult. Any adult. It could be grandma, it could be parents, it could be the babysitter, it could be, you know, anyone that has, you know, some experience with like hand-eye coordination. So go ahead and we're going to start to wrap. Doesn't really matter what direction you wrap in either, just as long as you're going around. And remember, you do not want to make this so tight your fingers turn purple, okay? So I kind of spread my fingers out a little bit so that you're not getting it tightly wrapped around your fingers and you can't get it off or you're losing feeling. I just started to wrap. I'm going to take the tail and bring it over, and I'm going to wrap on top of the tail, and that's how you're going to lock it in. And I'm going to go around, and I like to count. This is a great counting game. See who can, you can even make it a bit of a competition, who can get to 40 wraps first. And so it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth, until you really see it start to build up on your hand. All right. If you want a really fluffy pom-pom, you wrap it more. If you do not want your pom-pom to be as fluffy, you don't have to wrap it as much. You can kind of eyeball this. And again, this is an opportunity to experiment when to see if it is, you know, how fat you want it to be. Okay, so once you have it wrapped about 40 times, you're able to go ahead and cut the extra yarn off, just like that. And now we're going to tie it all together. So what that looks like, whoops, let's see over here. What that's going to look like is we're going to cut a tail. So you want a length of string about maybe 18 inches, roughly. Again, it does not need to be perfect, but just enough that you're going to be able to tie it easily. You can certainly use a ruler if you'd like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off my hand. And this is a good opportunity to do this with another person. You can see there's a little hole in the middle. And this is where the pom-pom comes all together. I'm going to take the strand of yarn. I'm going to lay my loop, all the loops that I've just put together. And I'm going to lay my yarn strand on top, just like a little belt. I know it's a little hard to see. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of the brighter pink so you guys can go ahead and see that. And you're going to go ahead and we're going to find the middle, roughly about the middle. And we're going to, there, you guys can see that probably much better. So you can see I'm pulling the yarn so it starts to squeeze all the loops together. And what we're going to do, I'm going to pull down on my loops, just like this, and I'm capturing it with the strand, and I'm going to tie, just like you're going to start to tie your shoelaces, you're going to crisscross, and it's called a square knot. So we're going to go underneath, and we're going to tie it, and you want to pull this very tight. And by pulling it tight, if you notice, it looks like it's wearing a belt around the middle. Okay? So the tighter you pull it, the better it's going to like fluff out. It's going to be more voluminous, okay? And then we're going to do another knot. We want to make sure you're doing double knots here. Pull it really tight. And if you're having trouble, again, try to see if you can have someone else hold the yarn all together and have someone else do the tying if you're having trouble. You can also set it down on the table and use that as an extra place to support the pom-pom. Now what I'm going to do is do not cut the pink strands. I'm going to use that as a way to hold my pom-pom together. And I'm going to take my scissors and we're going to start to cut the loops. All right? And what you want to do is open up all the loops so that they start to spring open. You guys can start to see all the loops are looking more like a pom-pom. You come around to the other side and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And right now it's going to look a little scraggly. And you can see it doesn't look like our nice neat pom-poms, but what you can do if you don't like the scraggly look is go ahead and give it a haircut. So this is a good idea to have a trash can nearby and give it a snip around. I just always remind everyone, once you give it a haircut, it doesn't grow back. All right, so just be careful, snip little bits, do it right over a trash can. I've seen people turn these into like topiary types of shapes. So if you ever see those bushes at like Longwood Gardens and they're shapes of dogs or in like fancy designs, you can honestly do that with a pom-pom if you were trying to get really creative with it. But here's just a pom-pom you can do on your hand. You can do them in multicolors. You can wrap multiple types of yarns together. I've even done pom-poms with plastic just by cutting plastic bags into strips and wrapping them up or wrapping them around together. So again, you can get really creative with the types of materials you can use to make your pom-poms out of. The next pom-pom maker I'm going to show you is using cardboard. So I'm going to just go ahead and start it with some yarn. One of the things I like to do with the pom-pom maker is I like to give it a little snip in. If you notice that right over there. And what you're going to be able to do is hook the yarn in place so it holds it for you. And then you're going to be able to wrap the yarn around the cardboard. As you can see, this is going to be much bigger over here. And the more you wrap, the fluffier the pom-pom is going to be. So you're going to want to wrap this probably closer to like 50 to 60 times. And I have one over here. I wrapped it about 100 times. And you can see how filled it is. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to pull this off of the cardboard. Since you guys have the idea now that you're going to wrap it around the cardboard, after you wrapped it up till it's nice and full, we can go ahead and begin to take it off of the cardboard. And what that's going to look like is I'm going to grasp all the yarn. And you can see the cardboard sometimes gets a little bend in it, and that's okay. That helps you to pull it off. You don't want anything so tight that it's going to be impossible. You're going to pull it off. It's just going to be back to the regular old pom-pom maker. And now I have all these loops over here ready to be tied together. So I'm going to go ahead and use a contrasting color of yarn so you guys can see it. So here's another piece of yarn that I cut, and it's going to be used in the same way that we tied all the loops together with our original hand pom-pom. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to grab the middle like this, use my hand as the belt. I'm going to take my string that I just cut and I'm going to bring it around the middle here. And find the two ends. Go ahead and do this with someone else if you're having trouble. Find the two ends and we're going to go ahead and tie it with a double knot. 1 and 2. And you could always use extra reinforcement. You want to do another knot in there. You really, I mean, if you're seeing that the fibers are loose and they're not tied together so well, go ahead and wrap it again and do another knot. You can never be too cautious with making sure the knot is tied together really, really well. All right. So I am going to take the strand that I used to tie the loops together. I'm going to use that as my way to hold the pom-pom, and I'm going to take my scissors and begin to pop the loops open. You can see this time, this is way shaggier, which is kind of fun. And I'm just going through. I kind of use the scissors to pick this apart. Just make sure you watch your fingers. It's really important to be safe with your scissors, so making sure your hands are out of the way. That's why I'm leaving them down below. And I'm going to go ahead and snip this again. And woo! I mean, we just made a Fraggle in what, 2 minutes? So I'm going to go ahead. You can go. This one's a little droopier. If I wrap this more, you would get more of the round look. So you can keep wrapping if you're not liking the style of pom-pom you're making. But again, you can also take this over to the trash can and begin to give it a little haircut if you don't like the uneven strands. Just remember, they won't grow back. But that is how you can make a pom-pom on a cardboard square really easily. I've seen people take like the backs of chairs. I mean, we're talking humongous pom-poms and wrapping yarn around the back of a chair, and they're going to end up like this big. But the more yarn you have together, it could get really droopy. So you just have to make sure you understand like what your ratio of yarn needs to be to the size of or the width that you're going to be wrapping around. Okay. So that is a cardboard version of a pom-pom. And now I'm going to show you how to make a teeny pom-pom using a fork. So what we're going to do with a fork is we're going to have our yarn ball over here. I'm going to take the end, the tail, and just drop it between one of the spokes of the fork and lock it down with my thumb. Again, I'm going to hold everything in my left hand. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap with my right hand around the fork. And this is going to be much smaller because you can see the size of my fork is much smaller than the size of my hand. And I do have a fork over here that has been wrapped. I did this about 20 times. So again, it's not a ton. And what you can probably guess is I'm going to cut the yarn off again. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a strand. I have a belt of pink over here. And what I want to do is a little different. I don't want to pull it totally off the fork. I like using the fork for a reason, because if you notice, I don't know if at the bottom, there's a space where I can actually thread my yarn through the bottom. So I just push my yarn through the bottom, and I can use that as a guide to tie everything together. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it this way. I pull up on the strand. You guys see that? I pull it up a little bit, and now I'm going to lay it flat. So now I'm laying it flat, and you can guess we're going to go ahead and tie it with a double knot. Just the crisscross, four square knot, and it pulls right off. You can see this one's super teeny. Make sure we get that double knot in there. Double knot again. And I have the strand on the bottom. So this one almost looks like a flower, which is super cute. And if you like the designs, if you want this to be a little flower, you can certainly leave it as a little flower. But go ahead and you can snip all the way around, all the loops. And again, once the loops pop open, you'll be able to give it a haircut and turn this into like a tiny pom-pom. So jewelry is great when it's this size, so you can make earrings out of it, you can make necklaces out of it. But let's talk about what we can actually turn these pom-poms into, okay? So the idea is that these pom-poms can be used for quite a few different things. I have made creatures, so out of paper. This is when the paper can come in handy. Just taking white paper, I was able to draw my design out. Just, you know, I had my eyes and a tongue, and the way I did the tongue was I had a little extra tab on the end, and I was able to glue it in. I used just regular Elmer's glue. Craft glue is fine, hot glue is fine, anything that's going to be able to stick it in there. So we made creatures. We also have made like zipper ties. So one of the cool things is if you leave the strands together, so if I leave this together, I can go ahead and, are we still having technical difficulties over here? Let's see. I'm sorry guys for all the technical difficulties. What we might end up doing is we'll re-video this if you missed anything, and of course we're going to upload it again. I see that a lot of folks are having some trouble seeing and hearing me. I'm not sure what's going on. I guess that's the risk we take when going live, but I appreciate everyone that's hanging in there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, you can even use this as a tab if you want to attach it to your shoelace, or if you want to attach it to a zipper on your jacket. Maybe not this large one, but if you take the loop that I just tied together and I open it up just like this, and I'm going to pass the pom-pom through. I push it all the way through. Comes through. I've got a lot of pieces here to bring through. Let's see. I hook it in there, and now, since I passed it through the loop, it's attached. So you can hang your pom-poms easily if you leave your strands, the belts that you use to tie all your loops together, attached to your pom-pom. So it's an easy way to hang up. The other thing I can recommend is that you can make a game out of this. So I made like a little pom-pom paddle. So if anyone wants to go ahead and see how many times they can pop their pom-pom up in the air, you can certainly get in some hand-eye coordination this way by popping your pom-poms around. You can also do a toss back and forth. So if you make 2 of these and you have another person to play with, you can see how many people can keep the pom-pom up in the air. I also had a party hat over here, so I don't know if anyone has extra party hats hanging around, or you can make your own party hat. If you notice, I made a giant one, but you can play a game and see if you can, nope, can't do that. Nope, oh, you can catch a pom-pom, so you can do a catch and a toss that can go back and forth if you have another person to play with. And of course you can make it wearable. So these pom-poms I have over here, I ended up attaching them to bobby pins. So you just go ahead and slide a bobby pin right through the loop of tying it all together. And this was a really fun way for me to go ahead and I can decorate, do my hair decorations over here. So I'm super fancy. And these pom-poms that I am wearing right now, we actually just strung it onto some clear plastic like fishing line. So you can make garlands out of it, or just something decorative to hang up at home, making it super fancy and fun. You know, so that's another way you can use your pom-poms. But ultimately, what we would love for you guys to do is show us what you make with your pom-poms. Go ahead. We've been seeing all week people using their Lucky Launchers and their toilet paper tube knitters. And today, I think you guys can get incredibly creative with all the pom-poms you have, and whether you're going to make a creature out of it or turn it into topiary or make a game out of it, we would love to see what you guys are making. But before I go, I do want to go ahead and give you a quick understanding of how, actually that's not true. If you go to our YouTube page, you guys can see how to make a pom-pom using a pom-pom maker, and it's just called, you know, Clover Pom-Pom Maker, and you can go ahead and see how this one is done. So thank you guys all again for joining us. I'm so sorry for all the technical difficulties. I am going to go ahead and see if we either need to re-video this or if we can use what has been recorded on my end to get this loaded up quickly so you guys can access this. But thank you all so much for joining us again, and I hope you'll join us for Creativity Time tomorrow at 10 o'clock. All right, have a great day, everyone.